welcome to another Adventures Online. I'm so excited tonight to talk to you about another one of our key principles we teach here in our family ministries at Welling Church. When we hit our secondary age group, during those teen years, we find it so important to instill some key principles in their life. And we teach 7 different ones. And tonight I want to start with our very first one, and that is authentic faith. It is so important that when we are in our teenage years and even older, that we don't just have a faith in God, but we have a genuine, authentic, true faith. Something that is going to last forever and ever and ever. No one wants to go to heaven one day and get there and realize everything that I have been believing is completely false. We don't want to get there and go, man, my faith was a counterfeit. There was nothing real about it. We want to have something that is genuine, true, and authentic. And that's why when we hit our teenage years, we begin to have this definition at our church when it comes to authentic faith. We say that faith is confidence that God is who He says He is, and He will do all that He has promised to do. A key passage we have for this comes from the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 through 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make straight your paths. The thing that is so amazing about this verse is this teaches us really what the key discipline is under this principle, and that is about trusting God. You and I, we can trust God when we have authentic faith, when we have confidence that God is who He says He is. The problem that most people run into when it comes to establishing their authentic faith is they don't have any confidence in who God is. They have no understanding of what God says that He is. And the reason for that is they probably haven't spent much time in the Bible. When you and I read the Bible, we don't just learn amazing stories about how God interacted with real people thousands of years ago and changed their life forever. We don't just get to learn about how God came to this earth in the form of Jesus and made a way for us to have a relationship with Him. But most importantly, we learn about who God is. When we read the Bible, we can discover who God says that He is. And also, we can learn about what promises has He made. In Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, we learn that when we trust in God, He's going to make our path straight. He's going to make it easy for us to know what we need to do in life, to know which decision we need to make. And this is really what authentic faith is all about. It's about not only establishing a saving faith in our life, but it's about eliminating circumstantial faith. None of us wants to have a faith that is dictated by the circumstances. When things are good, we believe in God. When things go bad, we're like, well, I'm not sure how I feel about this whole God thing. We don't want that. We want to have a faith that is rock solid. And we can have confidence that our faith is rock solid when it's based on the Bible, when it's based on who God says that He is, and it's based on the promises that He wants to give us. That's when you and I can have a faith that lasts forever. But not only that, we want to recognize that we have a good Father. One of the best things that Jesus teaches us is God isn't some distant great being that doesn't care about us, but instead, He cares about us in the greatest way possible. He wants to adopt us as His son and daughter. He wants to make us His children, and He wants to be a father, and not just any father. He is a good Father. He's not a reflection of our earthly fathers. Instead, He is the perfection of our earthly fathers. And what an amazing, amazing truth we have with that. When we have true, authentic faith, it helps us when we deal with doubt. When we hit those times where we're wondering, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Is God really real? We can just stop in those moments and go back to, all right, faith is confidence that God is who He says He is. Well, let me remind myself in the Bible, who does God say that He is? And faith is also confidence that He's going to do all that He's promised to do. Well, what has God promised to do? And if I can do that, I can go back to those things. I can be reminded of who God says that He is and what He's promised to do. It can help me overcome the doubt that I'm feeling in my faith. And it can help me really reassure myself with confidence in knowing that what I believe is true because God said so in the Bible. And I can go to those verses and be reminded of that. Another thing that is so important for us when it comes to having true, authentic faith is it gives us a direction. What I love about Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is this is all about when we trust in God, when we don't trust in our own understanding and our own thoughts to guide us, but we really rely on Him in all of our ways. He is going to guide and direct us in our life. A great example of someone who did this is Abraham. In the Bible, in Genesis, we can learn all about the life of Abraham and how he trusted God in some really big ways. When he had no clue what God was going to do, or really what the next step was after the one God told him to do, he just continued to trust God, and he took the next step, even though he didn't always know what was going to happen next. And that was true when he left his homeland to go to a place that God would tell him when he got there. Just start walking, and I'll tell you when you get there. And he trusted God in that. He gets Isaac, his son, and God asks him to do a big thing in going to a top of a mountain and sacrificing his son on an altar. And God intervenes in a huge way and stops Abraham, knowing that Abraham would sacrifice anything for God, which was a huge testament to Abraham's faith. But we learn about how big of this faith was in Hebrews chapter 11, verses 17 through 19. The author of Hebrews writes this: "By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promises was in the act of offering up his son, of whom it was said, 'Through Isaac shall your offspring be named.' He considered that God was able to even raise him from the dead, from which, figuratively speaking, he did receive him back." What's so amazing about this passage is we see that Abraham trusted God and thinking that if God wanted me to sacrifice my son, well, he must be able to bring him back from the dead if that's the case. Thankfully, Abraham didn't have to go through with that. God stopped him and provided another sacrifice for him to do. But when Abraham was tested to give up the most valuable thing in the whole world that he had, he was willing to trust God, even when it didn't make sense. And when you and I have authentic faith, true faith, when we have confidence that God is who He says He is and He will do all that He's promised to do, when He asks us to do something that just doesn't make sense, when the rest of the world around us looks at us and says, "You're crazy for doing that. You're crazy for choosing to study that in school," or "You're crazy for choosing to give up a gap year and go help a missionary in another country," we can know with confidence that if God is asking us to do it, and the Bible says it's okay for us to do, then He's going to work out all the details. We know that He has something planned, and we can, in faith, step out and obey Him, just like Abraham did, not knowing all the details, but knowing what the next step was. And we can take that step and follow Him. That's why it's so important for you and I to have authentic faith, for us to develop a faith that's our own. That's not our parents' faith. That's not our church's faith. That's not Justin's faith. It's not what Pastor Tarl's faith is. It is our own faith. And it's not based on circumstances or based on how we feel, but instead it's based on who God says that He is and on all the promises that He has made. It is based on the Bible. When we have that true, genuine, authentic faith, we will be able to have direction in our life and confidence that what we are doing is what God has planned for us. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for another Adventures Online. I look forward to seeing you next week where we are going to talk about spiritual disciplines. See you soon.